Andrew McAuley wasn't an ordinary adventurer. Born in Australia on August 7, 1968, he had a hunger for challenges that most people wouldn't even dream of attempting. He was the kind of man who set himself impossible goals, then somehow managed to achieve them. In 2003, Andrew paddled straight across the infamous Bass Strait without stopping, in nothing more than a kayak. The following year, he crossed the Gulf of Carpentaria, and in 2005, he led an Antarctic expedition covering more than 800 kilometers. By this point, it was clear Andrew wasn't just good at pushing limits. He needed to. But one challenge remained in his sights, one that would test every ounce of his skill and endurance, crossing the Tasman Sea, a brutal stretch of water over 900 miles wide, separating Australia from New Zealand. Many had tried. Some succeeded, but only with specialized, custom-made vessels designed for survival. Andrew wanted to do it in a standard, one-man kayak. No outside help, no shortcuts, just himself against the sea. He made his first attempt in December 2006, but after a single freezing night in the kayak, he was forced to turn back. For most people, that would have been enough. But Andrew wasn't most people. Just weeks later, in January 2007, he was back. This time prepared, determined, and stronger. At first, the journey seemed to go well. Andrew checked in with his family by radio, letting them know he was making steady progress. Day after day, he pushed forward, battling exhaustion, hunger, and endless waves. By early February, he was close. Just a few days from New Zealand, victory was almost within reach. But then, the Tasman turned against him. Storms rolled in, the waves grew violent. His kayak was tossed around like a toy in the water. On February 9th, Andrew made a chilling emergency call. "Do you copy? This is Kayak 1. I've got an emergency. I'm about 30 kilometers from Milford Sound. My kayak is sinking. I've fallen into the sea. I need a rescue." It was the last anyone ever heard from him. Search teams rushed out, but Andrew was nowhere to be found. Days later, on February 12th, his kayak was discovered drifting 30 nautical miles from where he should have landed. Andrew himself was gone. The kayak told a grim story. It was equipped with a small fiberglass dome meant to shield him from the harsh conditions. But whenever the kayak flipped, Andrew had to climb out, right it, and reattach the dome manually. Investigators believe he lost that dome in the storm, leaving him exposed to the freezing sea. Without it, survival was nearly impossible. His body was never recovered, but inside the kayak, searchers found a haunting record of his final days' photos he had taken of himself, documenting the journey right up until the end. Andrew McAuley's attempt to conquer the Tasman Sea remains one of the most daring expeditions in history. Some call it reckless, others call it heroic. But one thing is certain, Andrew pushed himself further than most of us could ever imagine, right to the edge of the world. Now move to the next one. In the foothills of Monument, Colorado, lived a boy named Dylan Redwine. Just 13 years old, Dylan split his life between two homes, his mother Elaine's, where he lived most of the time with his brother Corey, and his father Mark's, where he was required to visit because of the custody agreement. For most children, visiting a parent is something to look forward to. But Dylan dreaded those trips. He went out of his way to avoid them, and behind that avoidance was a secret, something he and his brother had discovered at their father's house just a year earlier. It was the summer of 2011 when Dylan and Corey borrowed Mark's laptop while he was asleep. What they stumbled upon would change the way they saw their father forever. Buried in the files were photos disturbing, graphic, and deeply unsettling. Their father, dressed in a wig and women's lingerie, clutching a soiled diaper, and in some images, appearing to consume it. Shocked and disgusted, the brothers locked themselves in the bathroom and scrolled through the images. Corey even snapped pictures on his phone. From that moment, Dylan's view of his father was fractured. He pulled away, distant and uneasy, unsure if he'd ever be able to confront him. By November 2012, that confrontation was inevitable. Thanksgiving break had arrived, and the court required Dylan to fly to Durango to spend the holiday with Mark. Before leaving, Dylan asked Corey to send him those photos again. He said he was finally ready to bring them up to their father. On November 18th, Mark picked Dylan up at the airport. Surveillance cameras caught them walking together, two figures, side by side, but strangely disconnected. Later that night, Dylan texted friends, trying to arrange a sleepover, but Mark refused to let him go. His last text went out at 9:37 p.m. After that, his phone fell silent. By the next morning, Dylan had vanished. Mark told police he left to run errands and came back to find his son gone. But his reaction was strange. He didn't search, didn't call neighbors, didn't even step outside to look. For a father whose child was missing, his calm detachment didn't feel right. Massive search efforts began across the mountains surrounding Mark's home. Days turned into weeks, then months, with no answers, until June 2013, when hikers on Middle Mountain, 8 miles from Mark's property, stumbled upon partial remains. A shirt, a sock, bones. Tests confirmed the heartbreaking truth. It was Dylan. The discovery raised immediate questions. The area was treacherous, isolated, nearly impossible for a child unfamiliar with the terrain to reach alone. Investigators turned their focus squarely on Mark. Soon they found traces of Dylan's blood inside his house, in the living room, the laundry room, and the kitchen. 2 years later, Dylan's skull was located. The autopsy revealed blunt force trauma to the head. Dylan hadn't wandered off. He had been killed. After years of waiting, in 2017, Mark Redwine was finally arrested. Prosecutors argued that Dylan confronted his father about the photographs. Then in a fit of rage, Mark snapped, striking his son and killing him. In 2021, after a long and painful trial, Mark was found guilty of second-degree murder and child abuse. His sentence, 48 years behind bars. For Dylan's family, justice came too late. His brother Corey, haunted by the memory of their last conversation, said, "I can't bring Dylan back. I can't talk to him, but I pray to him. I dream of him." Dylan became more of a man in 13 years than Mark ever did in 60. The tragedy of Dylan Redwine is a story of trust shattered, of secrets unearthed, and of a family broken by the very person meant to protect them. A chilling reminder that sometimes the darkest monsters live inside our own homes.